Yo, I'm Bob, into Marvel. Happen to be totally blind since birth. Talking about X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 3, Fire Made Flesh. This one premiered on March 27th in 2024. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched it, I'd advise you to go do that. However, if you don't mind spoilers, come right along. And yeah, we're going to jump right into this thing. You were warned. Now, I haven't seen something like this since a two-parter in the 90s Spider-Man series. Spoilers for that, too, if you haven't watched it. Return of Hydro Man, in which we find out that the Mary Jane Peter had married was a clone all along. I mean, I'd read how they went about this story arc in the comics quite a long time ago in terms of X-Men because we didn't know we were going to get any more of this for quite some time. So when the show started, I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe this is actually Madeline. I was toying with the idea. I really wasn't sure as to what they were doing. I was like, oh well, if they're changing things, having Jean have the baby, that's cool. But the writers are like, no, we're gonna do the thing, and they actually did the thing. I love how they revealed it too, because you've got the real Jean showing up to the mansion, and Beast. I like how he is the one, of course, who determines, well, this woman who's just arrived is the right age, whereas the person that we've been with for who knows how long is the clone. And I love how her mood all of a sudden changes, understandably so, because she's told she's an imposter. She has Jean's memory. She remembers marrying Scott. She remembers being the Phoenix. And we don't know when that switch happened, but I still wish we could find out. I hope against hope that there is an episode in which we see exactly when Sinister did his thing. And speaking of which, after Madeline goes to her room and is kind of trying to come to grips with what happened, I love how his voice comes over that baby monitor. That is one of the creepiest things I think I've seen in anything Marvel. And I that is just some freaky stuff right there. I like how, I think at one point though, before, when Jean is, or rather Madeline is trying to probe the real Jean's mind, she actually sees a flash of him, and we get that trademark Sinister laugh. And we get to see just a hint of him there. But man, when he's kind of right there in the room with her, as she's asking him who he is, and he's like, some refer to me as Mr. Sinister, but you may call me Father. That is such a great bit there. I am so glad that they got Christopher Britton back to do Mr. Sinister. That is the voice I have always heard in my head. I feel like maybe there were a couple of friends of mine that would read me the occasional comic, and when Sinister would show up in there, I don't remember what they were about or anything, but yeah, Christopher Britton's voice is definitely what I hear when I think of Mr. Sinister. And the way that he just kind of awakens his sleeper agent is creepy too, with that gem on her forehead there. And I think Sinister's got one of those too. I thought I remember reading somewhere a while back that if they had those on their foreheads, like if you saw someone relating to Sinister, that was a clone. So I wonder if he's got a bunch of doubles running around, kind of like LMDs from another part of Marvel, body doubles, so he can kind of protect himself. I mean, he's immortal; he doesn't have to, but at the same time, I mean, it does kind of make sense that he would take precautions. So when you see her transform, which is a really cool scene. And that is why I pre-ordered this right here. I didn't know we were going to get to see transformation like we did see. But yeah, we'll do a Goblin Queen unboxing video at some point. But yeah, I'm really glad that she's out. I wonder if she actually has her gem in the forehead there. But she's such a cool character and does quite a lot in the episode. I really liked all of the horror movie vibes that we got because, I mean, she is understandably outraged, and Sinister lets her go nuts in the mansion with all of the illusions that she's throwing. I mean, Gambit actually sees Rogue with, I want to say maybe it's Magneto. And when we see him later, I love where he's like, Gambit ain't never going to unsee that. We get Morph, who actually sees Mr. Sinister, a hallucination of him or an illusion of him. And that's great that they would go there because Mr. Sinister left such a psychic, traumatic wound in Morph. And of course, Morph is going to have major problems with that hallucination. You have Scott seeing, I'm guessing it's Professor X. I think a bear turns into Professor X and he's like, you can't even realize that you're with the wrong person. You're with the wrong wife. Naughty, naughty, naughty. You've got Roberto and Jubilee. I guess Roberto's there. And that makes sense because, he's got a group of mutants that he can identify with. So I like to think that he kind of comes and chills there. That was a really cool scene there where they're dealing with the spider, and then they're all kind of dropped into Madeline's Inferno, or Dante's Inferno, if you want to call it that, and they're fighting those creatures. It's such a cool scene where Jean saves everybody, but I mean, she's still having such a hard time controlling her powers. She doesn't remember much. It's like her mind is blank there. And you've got Rogue and Magneto showing up and they don't know what the heck's going on. I guess they were out on patrol. I still don't really think there's anything romantic going on between the two. I think that this is something kind of like a father-daughter thing. Maybe. I don't know that for sure. I am willing to admit that I'm wrong. I kind of hope it is more of a paternal thing. So I wasn't expecting to see that raid on Sinister's lab until we actually got it. And I mean, I already thought that it was getting close to the end of the episode, but I forgot that we had, almost 30 minutes of time. So yeah, you've got Madeline taking Nate to the lab, and such a neat scene while they're gone because Wolverine is staying behind and he's trying to help Jean remember everything that happened, trying to get her to remember who she is and what she means to him, what she means to the team. And man, the bit with Sinister actually exposing Nathan to the techno-organic virus, it had been something that I wanted to see for a long time because that's, of course, what happens in the comics. I remember finding that out when I got a Cyborg Cable action figure back in the 90s from my cousin Angel, and she read the back of his card to me. Before then, I don't think I knew anything about that. Why would I? Because I hadn't read the comics. But yeah, that was a really memorable moment for me when I found out that he had this when he was a baby. And the scene where Jean projects herself in her astral form and is doing her best to get Madeline to come to her senses, I love that. And what brings them together is remembering when Nathan was born. And I like how, I think it's Jean. Amazing voice work by Jennifer Hale, by the way. She is just fantastic in the episode. I like how she says, that's one of the most important moments of your life, the best moment of your life. And no one can take that away from you. So you have Madeline breaking free from Sinister's control. See, I thought we were going to get like 2 or 3 episodes of her serving Sinister, or perhaps doing this for most of the season, but they really sped this thing along. And then we have that heartbreaking scene where you've got Cyclops breaking Nathan free from the tank, and Sinister gives us that creepy ladybird fly away home what is it? Your house is on fire and your child is gone. And then we see those lines spreading across him. And, and sometimes in voiceover work, you actually have women doing like baby coughs and things. I think that is a real kid with a hacking cough. And that in itself is heartbreaking to hear Nathan, the little baby Nathan, uncomfortable as that virus is spreading. I was like, oh my God, they actually had sound bites of a kid. Of course, man, understandably sick with something, but that adds a lot to that scene where that virus is spreading, and you can tell this kid he doesn't have much time. And you finally got Beast repairing Bishop's time ban, and we got that just really sad scene at the end of the episode where Cyclops, he's not wanting Nate to go with Bishop. The only way to save Nate is to send him into the future with Bishop. So Forge in that timeline, that future timeline, can develop a cure, or at least slow the virus down, help him live with it. And Psych is just, I love that line where he's like, I cannot abandon him like my father abandoned me. Don't any of you know what it feels like to be abandoned? And Jean, I think it's Jean, she's like, well, he's not going to feel abandoned. And I love that moment where she's out there with him before Bishop takes him. And she's like, you're going to have days where you ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Wasn't I good enough? Why did you do this? And she was like, you always need to remember that we love you and that you're perfect. And the best future for you is one without us in it. And it was such a powerful scene. And you've got her having to say goodbye. I feel really bad for Cyclops because he wasn't there in that moment. And you've got Madeline at the end, and she kind of goes her separate way as well. So yeah, she was with us for an episode. She's gone. Little baby Nathan was with us, and then he's gone. He's gonna go up to wield a very big gun someday. Yes, he is, and be a time traveler and call himself the Wild Man of Borneo. Yes, he is. I love the end of the episode where you've got Scott and Jean, and they don't know where the heck to go from this moment forward. They're looking at each other. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And that kick butt scene where you've got Storm. She's in Dallas. That's a couple hours away from me, by the way. And Ford shows up, and he's offering her assistance in getting her powers back. Major comic book spoilers. We did mention this in the last X-Men video. But yeah, in the comics, I think Forge is responsible for that mutant power sapping weapon. And if they're going to go there in this show, that is going to be nuts. Because Forge will understandably feel guilty for somebody getting their hands on this weapon and using it against someone he had no intentions of it being used against. I mean, I can see Forge maybe using that thing on a very dangerous mutant, but he knows Xavier. He knows the X-Men. They met in cold comfort, and wouldn't it be crazy if it gets out that Forge did this, and there's a kind of another little skirmish between the X-Men and X-Factor. I don't know where the heck they're going. Like I said, I've read some bits and pieces of what happened in the comics. They're probably going to change a pretty good bit up, but I love that we got that scene with Cable, baby Nathan, and the technovirus. I really love what they did with Sinister in this episode. I couldn't wait to see this guy. I had no doubt that Christopher Britton would nail it like he always does. He sounds even creepier in this incarnation. I think they might add a little bit of filtering to his voice. So to me, he sounds even less human here than he did in the original animated series. That was, I mean, he was scary in the original animated series, but here in the continuation, he's more like nightmare fuel. If they're doing this with Sinister, I wonder what they're gonna do with Apocalypse. and his voice. Yeah, another 11 out of 10 for this episode. One thing I forgot, I liked that flashback where, Jean was trying to show Madeline kind of her origin. We actually got Xavier showing up and being compassionate there. We saw, pretty much hints of their best friend Annie passing away, which awakened Jean's powers. I think I remember reading that, when it comes to Jean's origins too. So this show, I think it's firing on all cylinders, and I have not been this excited to see, new episodes of a Marvel show in a long time. That isn't to say that I don't like the live action stuff, mind you, because I do. But there's something they're doing with this show, with the character moments, with the action scenes. The jokes are just all kind of falling into place in all the right moments. It's like they took everything I loved about the original animated series and they cranked it up to 50. I cannot wait until we get to see next week's episode. As of this recording, we haven't seen Matendo Life Death Part 1 yet, but that's coming. Things I'd like to see in the future, I'd love to see, like I said, when that switch happens. I don't know if we'll ever get that, though. We might not. I would like to see how Bishop got to the present timeline, how his time band was broken. Maybe we'll get that. That would be a cool flashback to go into. But, when it comes to things I don't like about these episodes, I'm having an awfully hard time figuring that out. I know some people are like, well, geez, can't you find something bad about this? I've tried. I think maybe the only thing, I would have wanted this to be extended a little bit. I would have wanted to see a bit more of Sinister and Madeline, maybe in more than just one episode. I think this was just a little rushed, but I still think it's great. They had 30 minutes, and it didn't, at least to me, didn't feel too crammed. I think they told a great story. I hope we're not done with Sinister in season 1, because he's one of my favorite baddies. I love this character so much. So I guess that'll do for this video. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. All right, so I forgot to mention how cool I think JP is doing when it comes to being Morph over the past 3 episodes. I love how many characters he's turned into. That's one thing I forgot to mention in the last 2 videos. I mean, he uses those shape-shifting powers. We've seen him turn into Archangel, Deathstrike. We got him turning into Ileana this episode. That has me wondering how they met Ileana, and things like that as well. I'd kind of like to see her and Colossus. At least I think that's Colossus' sister. You've got, Morph doing the whole blob thing in the first episode where Logan jumps off of the belly there to decapitate Big Boy there. He's just really going nuts with his shape-shifting powers. And I loved how he knew where Sinister's lab was. Of course he does, because he knows the enemy. He unwillingly worked for the enemy. So I really loved what they've done with Morph in these 3 episodes. So glad he's back with the team. And yeah, I love JP's performance as Morph. I can't wait to see more of what they're going to do with his character. And I think he really helps Wolvie being there. Wolvie's not as angry as he's been. Anyway, till next time, guys, when we talk about Life Death Part 1, I will hear you then.